This video is going to be a little bit different. This is, I guess, the moral of the story. And I don't agree with the moral of the story, but I am going to tell you why it is the moral of the story. The moral of the story is don't stick up for others and don't help girls. That's the moral of the story. I still stick up for others. I guess I don't learn my lesson too easy, do I? Now let's start off with the don't help girls part. I've helped out a lot of women and a lot of men. And it seems to me, from my personal experiences, a guy, when he's done with you, he's done with you. If I step out of a situation with a guy who used to be a friend of mine and then he does something screwed up and we're no longer friends, we're just no longer friends. That's it. If there's a situation where a guy gets screwed up on drugs, like does a whole bunch of drugs and does some really bad stuff to you, most of the time he's either out of your life or he tries to make it up to you. And after trying to make it up to you, he usually steers clear of you anyway. It's called shame. In most of the situations that I've seen where it was domestic violence, it was women hitting men, and there was never any charges brought against those women. In most of those cases, there was never even a police officer involved. It's just a woman beating on a man. And many times I've seen that in public, at public dances, where somebody feels empowered because there's a large group of people, so I can assault somebody in public. Now, sure, we don't know what happens behind closed doors. Maybe he beats her in public, or maybe she beats him in public because he beats her in private. You never know. But you also never know if she's controlling and beats on him at home. Now, when you help out girls, you run the risk of situations like with Natalie. And that's not because women are so much different than men. It's because they are taught differently here in the United States. If a woman's trying to kill you, defend yourself. You need to. Just like if it was any other assailant, and we have a lot of female killers coming out now, don't we? You know, back in the day, they just blamed pretty much everything on men. And in many cases, it was men's fault. And the Bible was used as an excuse for this. The Bible says how you're allowed to treat your wife. The Bible also tells you how to treat your slaves. I don't have any slaves. I also don't have a wife. I also would not kill my own kid for being disrespectful. Those of you claiming to be Christians, if you followed the law, you probably would not have kids. Matter of fact, you probably wouldn't be here. I don't take much stock in religion. People use religion to do horrible things, or as an excuse, rather, as an excuse to dispose of all reason. And I see a lot of people getting away with things that they shouldn't have done. I see one specific group that pretty much everybody, all the way down to the local level, all the way up to the very top, pretty white girls. Everybody cares about pretty white girls. And pretty white girls, I'm fairly certain they're aware of it. The women that I know that are the most manipulative are the pretty ones. They learn that they can get away with it. Just like the men who I know who get away with it the most are the good looking men. But you always run the risk of somebody being a drug addict. And I helped out a lot of drug addicts, a lot of them. You don't have to deal with this stalker trap from a male drug addict. When you drive 1,700 miles away from a male drug addict, he gets the point. There's really no reason for it to go any further than that. But girls are different. They're taught to be embarrassed by different things. They're taught that they should know and do certain things, and they're taught that there are certain things that you can use to manipulate others. We've also got a program schedule being fed to us about how horrible all men are and about how horrible all white people are. And that's pretty screwed up. You know, there are a lot of male victims and a lot of white victims. And a lot of those victims are standing up for all of our rights. Just because homeless are victimized a lot more than black people are, doesn't mean that black people are not victimized more than the average American. Homeless people not really having any say-so whatsoever in any political anything, and being able to be killed at will by law enforcement, it's horrible. That doesn't mean that it's not horrible when it happens to black people. It is still horrible when it happens to black people. It's still horrible when it happens to immigrants. A lot of the people who wasted the most of my resources were women. Women with addictions. And yes, they have problems of their own, but there's a difference between these folks and myself. Most of these folks, male and female, when they had a problem, the way they dealt with the fact that they have emotions is to get messed up. Get messed up on cocaine or meth or alcohol or whatever it happens to be that's their drug of choice. And you always have to be afraid in that situation of helping someone out, because you never know. You never know when they're going to steal all your jewelry. You never know when somebody who is in a desperate situation will do something desperate. You never know when that Boy Scout that had never stolen anything in his whole life, you never know when he's going to end up homeless and steal a loaf of bread. And it might not be a loaf of bread. It might be something else. But the fact is, he's doing it out of desperation. Now, we got a narrative that we like to throw on the American people about how horrible men are. We have women who get away with beating on men in public. So I'd say that the numbers are pretty askew on that. I'm not saying don't help women. I'm saying that's the moral of the story. In most of these cases, you're going to end up on your own if you're a male. Girls will band together to help a girl out. But when it's a guy, they're like, you got to do it on your own, or I'll help you. But then when it comes to actually helping, they don't follow through. Then we have this national drug epidemic. I'm talking about methamphetamines. Every single person that I run into from anywhere says, dude, I'm from a town that's full of meth, or I'm from a city that's full of meth. Denver is full of meth. New York is full of meth. Florida, the whole state, full of meth. Every state in the union is full of methamphetamines. We got people who can't think straight, a lot of them. There's something called a drug induced psychosis. That's somebody who's so addicted to drugs that they take them until it drives them completely crazy. It basically makes them temporarily schizophrenic. When you got to deal with somebody who's going through that, it's scary enough. It's even worse when they need a scapegoat and you're the only one there. Or when they want to impress somebody who has the drugs that they want. Maybe there's somebody that don't like you. Now, I've worked with the homeless for a lot of years. I was homeless myself for a lot of years. I helped out a lot of different people in a lot of different situations. Now, when I say don't help girls, you know what? I helped a lot of females in my lifetime and males. And the females that I helped out, I don't regret helping. When they called me and said, hey, my boyfriend's beating on me, or my husband is beating on me, or I'm afraid that my husband is doing this or that or the other, or I don't want my girls to go through this anymore, and you didn't have anybody else that showed up, you called everybody else. The only one who showed up was me in many of these situations. There are cases like with Jamie, she's very pretty. So she usually has an abundance of volunteers. The reason that she called me up there is because she wasn't certain if she would have the volunteers actually show up. Now, I've noticed that a lot of these people that I helped out, the women especially stabbed me in the back. The women especially turn things into something that they're not. This is how we teach women differently, though. We teach men that we're supposed to deal with our stuff by either stuffing our emotions and pretending we don't have any, or we're supposed to beat on things. Well, that's just stupid. You just need to man up. And man up means something different to everybody. I do think there is a solution, though. There is a definite solution to the issue of it being dangerous for a man to help a woman. You never know what kind of trauma that she's endured already. You never know what kind of drugs she's putting into her system. And when an addict says that they're sober, that don't mean that they're sober. The way we fix this is by having women help. And not in the traditional way that we teach American girls very young, that you gang up together as a group. That's just hazardous. Then you end up with a pecking order and a social order. I know a lot of women who they got a group of women who are all very domineering of their husbands, and they all take the word of one woman, the one that they always go to get it all gathered together and gang up on a guy. This woman they're going to has probably never had a boyfriend, definitely never had a husband, and is a pure man hater. No matter what, she's constantly telling you that, hey, this is abusive, and that's abusive, and this is abusive, and that's abusive. Literally, a man making a decision is abusive. Okay. And you wonder why there are so many men who are going, you know what, I'd rather play PlayStation. There's a lot of men in the United States who take a lot of crap for things that are not their fault and not their decision. I don't know how many women ended up with men that treat them horribly because they listened to their mom when she said, "You two will make beautiful babies." Ah, yes, physical attractiveness again. You don't want your daughter with somebody who's not physically attractive because they won't make cute babies, right? Is that what you're saying? What about somebody who treats her well? I also get bombarded with this, men don't have to wear makeup thing. Women don't have to wear it either. I'm not the one putting it on their face. It is not my decision for people to do that. Just like it is not my decision for people to paint themselves up like a clown. The moral of the story is horrible. Instead of going to that woman who's trying to treat you like no matter what, it's a horrible thing. Why don't you try working together to get some of these predators actually off the streets? Both men and women. But also protect the victims. A lot of times, these women that we are going out there, and you can ask women who rescue other women in this situation too. A man has to be very wary. A man can go to prison over accusations, whereas with a woman, even with all the evidence in the world, it's difficult to get somebody to even look at it. Now, for me, the job that I have done for a lot of years isn't just for women. It's not just for kids. It's not just for the homeless. It's for anybody who needed it. If you were in an unsafe situation, I help people to get safe. But also, when you're rescuing women, you do have to run the risk of one of them going crazy, or two or three of them. If it's a woman who's helping them, she's not going to have to go through the same things that a man will. There are less likely to be false accusations thrown around because it's another woman. Although that there does open up another nest of worms. In a lot of the situations where I was abused, people had actively sought out jobs where they would be able to abuse people with impunity. With a lot of the female oriented violence, it's obvious that women can be predators too. It's obvious from the news. Every other week, we're seeing another woman teacher who is arrested for having sex with a student. So, what's to stop female predators in that situation from trying to seek that position? And that's why body cameras are important. Body cameras record everything. If there's false accusations, the body camera has it recorded. If you're going to help somebody this day and age, you do have to protect yourself in that way. I got a phone that I got to try to find a place to get it fixed, and the nearest place that I've been able to find is Cheyenne or down in Colorado. It's got evidence that shows some of my predators. Now, mind you, most of my predators have been men. Most of the people who have physically harmed me have been men. I have never been sexually assaulted by a woman. When it comes to actually protecting people, if you're going to actively protect somebody, or much like what you guys see going on with the search for Brian Laundrie, you got a lot of people out looking for him. You got a bunch of rewards for him. You got warrants out for him. You got the entire country and Canada and Mexico looking for the guy. I mean, that's a lot of coordination. We also got to be wary of the fact that sometimes that coordination is ill oriented. If you've got a bunch of people who assume someone is guilty and they go after him all mob status like they do, not just on the internet, but in real life, make an innocent man's life hell. And then people remember it. People remember events like that where it made someone's life hell, especially if they were an active participant. A lot of people won't admit it in public, but people are stupid. They see a wallflower and they want to spill their beans. I was always a wallflower. I tried to avoid people because, well, I grew up in a place where it was just not a good situation. I grew up in the system, being shipped from place to place to place to place, being the minority in most of the places that I was shipped, and being beaten up because I was the minority. Do I still help women out? Yes. But most of the time, I try to find another woman to do it first. I'd really like for my guy friends to not have to deal with anything like this if they can avoid it. Most of my guy friends just can't help themselves, though. When a girl comes crying, whether she's crying wolf or not, he's going to help her. Now, if a guy does something wrong, absolutely there should be charges pressed. But when you have to make things up in order to have a bunch of other people go after an innocent man who helped you, there is a major problem with that. You are going after the good guys, not the bad guys. Who is it that raped Natalie Bollinger? Her own dad. And he wasn't the only one. He got drunk and he beat on her. He did horrible things to her, and she still just wanted him to love her right. But he didn't. I have to deal with people's opinions of this crap everywhere I go. Even more so in places where I knew people. Places like Chapel, Nebraska and Boulder, Colorado. People kept saying, you need to move somewhere new. You need to move somewhere new. Move somewhere else. Move somewhere else. You know what? Ever since Natalie was killed, they've had me all tied up in court crap. I'm disabled. I have to spend all of my time jumping through hoops to try to make these people happy. These hoops are expensive. And then I have to pay the travel for all of these things. Well, that's expensive too. Trying to find the time to help myself, let alone help somebody else, is not easy in that situation. But there's also the fact that if you see somebody busted down on the side of the road, you can help them. I gave a couple of people rides while I was out and about, maybe 3 or 4. And it's not like they needed a ride far. There was one guy, he was biking across America, and I let him into my vehicle for a bit. He wanted to put his vehicle on the back, and he did give me the creeps. He really did. But he wasn't in my vehicle for long. We got to where he wanted to go, and he was able to get out. And I don't know if it was a bike tube or what it was exactly, but I gave him a ride. I am honestly scared to pick up a woman. You know how crazy that is to be afraid of helping someone? I know that when a drug addict is asked to turn somebody in or roll over on someone or say she got it from somewhere and they'll let her go, I know in most of those cases, they're not going to turn in their drug dealer. They're going to turn in somebody who's squeaky clean. And the reason that they're going to turn in somebody who's squeaky clean is because that person is not going to get in any real trouble for it. Or at least you wouldn't think. But then you got to think about their reputation now. How often are they getting harassed by the police now? How often are they getting harassed by the public now? Helping women or children out can end up being a very, very sticky situation. A situation that every single man in this country needs to be aware of because there are a lot of meth addicts, a lot of female meth addicts, and that drug induced psychosis is not a joke. I mean, I've got documented evidence of multiple women on my timeline having drug induced psychosis. Most of it from meth. You never know when you'll become the scapegoat because you were the good guy. Hey, you'd think to yourself, hey, that isn't a reasonable thing that somebody's going to do. Well, people who are on meth are not reasonable people, especially when they've smoked so much or shot up so much that they go crazy. We need to do something to change it. We got to try something. Perpetually victimizing the victims That ain't working. That is not making the United States any better. And with the cost of everything, yeah, it's no wonder people are going crazy. Everything here is expensive. A lot of foreign folks are of the opinion or the belief that every American's got 2 cars in their garage. Most Americans don't have a garage. If they have a garage attached to their house or a house to stay in, it's probably someone else's. They're probably paying off years and years and years of loans. And it's nice to have the credit to do that, isn't it? Because your mortgage payment is going to be less than your rent. A lot of the people that I ended up helping out after Natalie died, the majority of them are women. Men don't like to ask for help. They're taught that they're not men if they ask for help. They're also not men if they cry. They're not men if they don't beat somebody up for talking down to a woman. They're taught all sorts of things. You need to be brawny. You need to be butch. You need to be angry. You need to deal with your stuff through violence. When you get somebody who's pretty, you get all those freebies. You got all those guys who are going to give you free drugs because they're hoping you'll get trashed and they can take advantage of you. That's literally how it is. Every time that you stick a bottle to your mouth, I want you to keep in mind if there are men around, they will try to take advantage of it. There are also women around who will try to take advantage of it. And that's not saying that all men will or all women will, because there are plenty of guys out there who are going to go, holy crap, she is completely sloshed and she's going to do something stupid. And the first thing those guys start doing is trying to find a woman sober enough to drive her home. Women are safer in that situation. If a guy is giving you free drugs, probably means he's going to try. For me, I grew up in a system that's completely screwed up, and I got to learn how horrible people are at a very young age. People haven't changed. I'm an adult now. People are just as backstabbing and two-faced as they ever were. There's a lot of other things that changed. We didn't have internet when I was born. We got internet when I was a teenager. I didn't have internet, but it existed. Now everybody's got it. You got old people in old folks' homes on their smartphones. We got a lot of stuff going on that is simply a matter of organization. But people aren't going to help to organize project if they're not down with it, if they don't care. That's the biggest problem with MMIW. Everybody's all trying to find Gabby and then find Brian because of Gabby, and she's a pretty white girl. And then we get bombarded with thousands of messages and what do you call those, advertisements, and on our Facebook feed all through it, you got people talking about how horrible men are. Now, let's say Brian Laundrie did kill Gabby Petito. If he did, then it is Brian in specific who did that, not men. One thing that I've seen that is probably one of the most horrible things about our society is predator recycling. You got a guy who beats on a woman, and she gets fed up with his stuff and kicks him out. He's good looking, so he gets another woman to do that, and another one after that, and another one after that. Pretty soon, this one asshole is beating on 7 women, and all 7 of them women are complaining about how horrible men are, how much men suck. All right, so he's good looking. I didn't date you, he did. I shouldn't have to apologize for having a penis. And in many cases, when it comes to pointing fingers and trying to blame somebody, having a penis is not a good thing. You can literally go to prison over a woman's opinion. That is not a joke. You have to be afraid of the consequences of helping a woman. Now, most of the women that you help out will be grateful. But the ones that aren't are really screwy. And we're told that we're supposed to feel bad for them because of all the things that happened in their past. And obviously we do. But there's a lot of men with those things in their past too. There are a lot of men who have been abused. And those are usually the men that you go to for a rescue. You know how much it sucks for a good dude to find out that you lied to him about an abuser? That's horrible. Or that maybe he did actually abuse you. I'm going to give you an example. You're dating a guy, you get beaten up by the guy, and you call me and say, Sean, could you help me out? My boyfriend is beating me up. I need out of here. I need my kids out of here. I need my stuff out of here. Please come help me. So you go help her to move. And then after you've moved her, well, she wants to go back and date that dude again. That's fine. That really is. And you tell me, hey, Sean, he didn't beat me up, or you give me the I deserved it speech, which is complete crap. And then I don't exist until the next time that you need a rescue, which is probably going to be soon because you went right back to the dude that I rescued you from the first time. That's confusing. Miss Jerry did that. I helped her move 7 times between 3 different guys. Yeah, do the math. How many times did she go back to predators on that? And there were also times she was bouncing between them when I wasn't there to rescue her because she moved to Montana. But I helped her move a couple of times in Montana even. Miss Jamie wanted to move out of Chapel. I helped her with that. With a lot of these women that I helped out, I ended up getting the short end of the stick on it, which, depending on the situation, is okay. I mean, if you invest some of your money in trying to get them kids safe, you invested that money in them kids. So you didn't get the short end of the stick. But when you got somebody who messes with you emotionally, messes with you mentally, tries to manipulate you into doing things, and then, like with Miss Jerry, for example, if you're going to keep on going back to the same abusive guys, why am I helping you move? But you can't say that because then she won't tell you when she needs help again. When she told me how horrible Ron was, I helped her move. I helped her and all three of her kids move out so that she wasn't staying with Ron anymore. And then later on, she didn't get a hold of me when she moved back in with Ron. If he was that horrible, why did you go back? Because he's good looking. She liked his blue eyes. I don't agree with the moral of the story. Not as in it doesn't actually exist, but as in I don't believe that's the way it should be. And I do believe there are things we can do to change it. When a girl goes off to college, one good important piece of advice is if you do go to a party, go with another woman and leave with her. Another good piece of advice is if you're tired at a party, do not pass out. If you do, it's better to pass out in public than it is to pass out in private. Sure, they may ride on your face, but they're a lot less likely to rape you in the living room full of people. I gotta get back to working on my legal stuff. I'm having issues with being able to scan things. I want to be able to put them on my computer so that I can send them in emails to the different places they got to go. And I'm having a little bit of issues with getting the scanner to download it to my computer. Um, my other two computers are full of evidence, so this one is the last one with any sort of games on it. I got to take the games off so that there's room for me to do this. Hopefully, between that and all of my USB sticks, I'll be able to juggle everything that I need, get it sent to where it needs to go, make copies of what I need to make copies of, and get it all done. Y'all be safe, stay out of trouble, and please start looking out for each other instead of looking out for the drama. Seriously, look out for the safety.